Hey everybody, in this video we're going to talk about flash, specifically with the Sony a7C and the kit lens, because the kit lens isn't all that great in low light, but all you got to do is add one of these little bad boys on your camera, and when the sun goes down and there is no more light, no worries, you can still photograph. Professionals or amateurs that have been doing this for a while. This is mainly used for beginners who just picked up a Sony a7C and the kit lens and was hoping that they would get better quality images in low light. Now, if you are a professional or an amateur who's been doing this for a while, well, maybe you can learn something and you never heard about this Godox TT350 flash, well then stick around and maybe you'll learn something about the flash. But what are flashes used for? Many things. One of the main things is to create mood in your scene. Like you could turn off all the lights and just have one light come down, so you have that real high contrast ratio from the brights to the darks, and it kind of looks moody. You can also put a gobo in front of it, which is kind of like a stencil or like a tree branch with leaves, and then pass that flashlight through the leaves and have something on the background to kind of break up a flat blank wall, or to show that you're outside when you're really not with the branch. But mainly it's kind of used, mostly, at least for me, is to just add light to a scene that you don't have enough light for. So even though we're going to talk about the Sony a7C and the kit lens, a flash can help out even expensive f1.2 lenses, let's say, because you might be in a really low light situation. So let's get into that real quick. Now, this isn't a Godox TT350 review, but I'm just going to go over in case you're interested in this particular flash. And why I choose this one is because look how tiny that thing is. It's super small. I mean, this is a great companion for something like the Sony a7C. That's a very small light camera. In fact, it's so small you've got my Peak Design 5 liter here, and I mean, it just fits. Look, it got lost. It just fits right in the bag, really easy. So this is something that I take with me everywhere. So I'm going to explain just a little bit about this. There's two flavors of this. There is one that has a lithium battery, which you need a proprietary charger to charge the battery, and they've got AA. Now this one is the 2AA, and why I choose the 2AA is quite simple. When I travel, this is for just in case flash. It's not for, like you're doing high production or professional work, although you could probably use it for professional work. I wouldn't advise from that. But the 2AAs is great because you could put two AAs in here, and you can carry two more AAs in a bag. Very simple, very small. And when you're traveling, you don't have to take a proprietary charger with you, which keeps your gear down when you're traveling. And if that battery completely dies, like a permanent death to it, it only comes with one of those lithium batteries, so you'd be out of luck. Or if you're just using the flash, and you drain the battery, then you're going to have to charge again. With AAs, you can find those literally anywhere, and you just can keep adding more if you need to, and that's why I choose the AA version of this of this flash. So one thing you've got to know, though, with the AAs compared to the lithium battery, the difference would be not just that it's more convenient for AAs, but there's a thing called a cycle time. I think I'm saying it right. That's when let me turn this on and I'll show you. Let's turn this on high power. Let's turn it off of that real quick. So let's put this, I'm going to put this on full power. Now you see that light's not red yet? Now it's red. That's cycle time. So if I were to, put this on my camera and I were to take a flash, I'm going to push. This is a test button. So we're going to fire the flash. Watch how long it takes that red light to come back on, and I'll tell you why that does. So I took a flash. Might not have showed up, but let's see when that turns red. You see how we're waiting, and now it's red. That red light means I can take another flash. How flashes work is they have, my terminology might be off, but they're like capacitors in there. And what a capacitor does is it draws energy from the battery, and as that capacitor fills up, once it's completely full, it basically is giving you giving your batteries more power than the batteries themselves have to give off that big blast of power, and that empties that capacitor, and then it needs to spend a few seconds to draw more energy from the batteries, and then once it's full, then you can take another photo and the flash goes off, and that is the cycle time, or refresh rate. I can't remember what the terminology is, but once I take a shot, I have to wait a few seconds before that light comes on, allowing me to use the flash again. I can take a picture still, but the flash won't fire. So with the lithium battery, that time that you have to wait is much quicker. So in a situation where you want to go full power and have that time be quicker between each photo, then you can get the lithium. But for how I use this, I don't need that. Now, when I do professional shoots, I might as well hold this one up too. When I do professional shoots, I use the bigger V860s, and those I use, of course, the lithium battery. This is actually the same size that goes in the TT350, I think. Maybe not, but anyways. So for professional use, I use several of these for different things, and because of that, the recycle time is much quicker, so I don't have to have my the model or my client waiting until it charges. It's much quicker. So if you get the lithium on this, it'll be a little quicker, but I rather have the convenience of AA when I'm traveling, and this isn't like something I use all the time. I'm typically, I consider myself just a photographer, but I typically use natural light as much as possible and only use flash when I don't have enough light or I'm creating mood. So that would be the difference from lithium and the AA. So when I typically am using this flash, it's mainly for situations where my wife is in front of a big picture window and you got New York City out there, or you've got Paris out there. And of course it's daylight out there, so it's really bright, and indoors even if you turn on the room lights or the hotel room lights, still not bright enough. I almost always, at least one trip or travel, or on a travel, use this for this shot, basically. And that's where this comes in handy, where you can use fill light so that I can expose for outside and have this fire and fill the inside of the room, lighting up my wife so she's not a silhouette or the background's not completely blown out. So I use it in those situations most of the time on my travel. So again, I don't use it much, but for that situation, it's very handy. Other reasons when I use a flash in general, whether it's this small little thing, but typically this is at an event where, or at like during a wedding, not during the ceremony, but just running around getting shots, is you can have this on your camera and you can bounce flash off of the ceiling, just raining the whole room with light. So if it's dark, you could light up the whole scene and you don't need to raise your ISO and all that. So you can light up a whole room. Now you got to think something over here. Of course, if the ceiling's really tall, either one of these might not be enough to light up a scene. But one of the main things is if you go to a wedding, let's say, and the bride paid a lot of money to have like nice pink uplighting and all this stuff in the room, once you use bounce flash, you're going to completely kill all that beautiful ambient light, because you're going to basically just have nice soft white light everywhere because you're bouncing off of the ceiling, and the ceiling's basically acting like a big white box. So you got to be careful not to just use flash all the time and kill the ambient light. One of those situations is I was on a boat in Budapest with my wife on a river, and it wasn't candlelight dinner, but it had that essence to it, so it was kind of low light. And I wanted to take a photo of her, and of course I had this with me, but if I would have used this, I'll show the photo right now. So you can see that's using the Tamron 28-75 f2.8 at f2.8, but I really had to jack the ISO up to take this photo, because if I would have used this flash and bounced it off the ceiling, then you would have completely lost the mood and the ambient light that is there, as you can see in the photo. And even what would happen would probably is there would be all this glare and reflection off the windows, and you wouldn't be able to see Budapest out the window as well. So just make sure when I'm talking about using flash and bouncing flash to light up your scene, just make sure that you're aware of it's going to kill any ambient light. In some situations it doesn't matter, but in others it does. The way to get around that is beyond the scope of this video, but you can use snoots that go over and just direct the light straight on your subject, but now you're going to have off-camera flash, which we'll go into a little bit later, or grids on soft boxes that contain the light in a direction and it doesn't bounce everywhere. So there are things, but that's beyond the scope of having a nice little flash like this just for travels. But just keep that in mind, that you don't want to kill the ambient light. Now the other thing about this flash real quick, it does have TTL, which means if you get the Sony version, it should have, like, I think an S for the Sony version. When you have this on your camera like this, we get TTL. What TTL is when you put the flash on TTL, you can set your camera up to whatever settings you have, and when you take a photo, the camera tells the flash, hey, you need to go brighter to make this perfect exposure. So then the flash will go really bright to get the perfect exposure. And as you increase the brightness in your camera, let's say, the TTL says, okay, we don't need that much flash, so the flash won't flash as bright. That's really good when you're doing event work, where you're running around and you don't have time to be dialing in the brightness of your flash. Now I know a lot of professionals will say, oh, I never use TTL. It's up to you. You use whatever you want. You use whatever makes your job easier for you and get the job done. And for me, for the longest time, I never used TTL, but now I use it a lot when I'm doing event work because I don't have to fiddle with the flash. I just set my settings for the scene. I turn my flash on and it bounces and it does everything automatically, and it sets the power of the flash for me. So I use TTL quite a bit on events. It does that. The other thing it does have, this small little thing, is HSS, which is high speed shutter sync. And that means with a traditional flash that doesn't have HSS, your camera, every camera is different. It has a flash sync speed, which means this camera, you can only take the shutter to 160th of a second, right? 1/160th of a second. You can't go beyond that, or you're going to get black bars in your image. But with this flash, you can actually turn on HSS, and now I could take the shutter speed as high as I want, which means that it's going to make the image darker for certain situations and scenarios, and then the flash will still work with HSS. We're not going to go into all the details, but so it does have that on this little flash, which is pretty cool. So now I'm going to show you how just a flash can really improve your photography. Now, I went around the house and just took photos of objects because I didn't have a whole lot of time to do anything else, but you're going to see how a big difference this makes. Now, I have a tungsten light in my kitchen, and I just dimmed it down so it's a low light situation. And what I first did is we're going to show you a photo of what the ambient actually looked like with my eyes. Let me switch out this here so we can see this. So you can see here, this is exactly how my eyes seen the photo, and I don't even know what I used. I just dialed in stuff so it looks like my eyes. So this is literally how my eyeballs see it. So it's quite the low light situation here. So what I did then is I increased the ISO of the kit lens. It's at f/5.6 at 60 millimeters, and I wanted to see on the back of my camera. You've got the the meter, the light meter at the bottom to see when you're at 0, which you're perfectly exposed. And as you can see, I had to increase it really high, and look how terrible that looks. I mean, that looks horrific. And if we look at the info, I don't have my glasses on. It's kind of far for me to read this because I'm doing this on my laptop here. But it looks like it says 65,000 ISO, and maybe a little higher than that. So we're at 65,000 ISO, which is, pretty high. You don't want to take photos like this with an f/5.6 lens because you're going to have horrible results. However, I said, well, let me try my f2.8 Tamron lens to see if we get, what ISO we would use. So here's the Tamron at f2.8, which is better in low light, but as you can see, we still had to go up to, well, I brought it down to 40,000 ISO, which is better than the f/5.6, but clearly you can see even with a more expensive lens and at f2.8, it still looks horrible. I mean, I wouldn't use this for anything, right? And then I said, well, let me slap on a faster lens. So I slapped on my 50 millimeter f1.8 wide open, and that allows us to decrease the ISO quite a bit, but we're still at, what's that say, 16,000 ISO, and at 16,000 ISO you can see it looks a lot better, you know, so it wouldn't be bad to get at least a fast prime in your kit here. I did a review on this lens, go check it out. But you can see it's still horrible. I mean, it still doesn't look good at all. I wouldn't want a photo that looks this horrible. So you can see it's horrible even with the fast aperture lens like f1.8. So now I'm going to show you now I'm going to go through a bunch of different pictures with the kit lens and this little flash, and by just bouncing it off of the ceiling, how much better the images are. Now, what you're going to notice is, depending on how tall your ceilings are, that's, you know, you're going to lose power. So if my ceilings are white and they're low, then I don't need a whole lot of power from this to just bounce off of the ceiling there because it's low. The taller your ceilings are, if you're like in a gymnasium, you can imagine that this flash has to have enough power to go all the way up, bounce, and then come all the way down. So, you know, depending on the size of room you're in, you're going to have different results. But in my ceilings, I put this on full power, or not quite full power, but to help the flash out a little bit, just to have recycle times quicker and I don't have to turn this way up, I put the camera on at ISO 200, and the flash, I don't think I was at full power, just so I don't have to, you know, burn the flash out, because ISO 200 on this camera is amazing anyways. But anyways, look at this, look at the difference. I mean, this is the kit lens with a flash, and you can see this is pure beauty here. This is, I mean, at ISO 200 using a flash, we went from that really, really crappy photo that was just all muddy and 65,000 ISO all the way down to 200 ISO, and you can see the image is just beautiful. I mean, sharp, no noise. I mean, look, there's literally no noise in here. So you could quickly see how amazing just using a flash, a cheap flash like this, can make your images. And these are JPEG, straight out of camera, so no processing going on here. Now if we go to the next photo, I'm going to show you walking around my house with the exact same settings I just told you, ISO 200, the flash not quite at full power, and wide open at f5.6. Look how gorgeous the images are. I mean, it's this picture is blurry because the picture itself is blurry on this this item here, but you can see it's just amazing. Let's go to the next. Oh yeah, I forgot. I took a photo without flash, which you could see here. So I took a photo without flash. That's what this shows. I forgot that I did that. And then by turning, you can see it's crummy. And then by just turning this cheap little flash on, you get that. Amazing, right? So we go to this one here. This one here was a little further from the light source in my kitchen, so it's completely black. And by just turning the flash on, I got that. So night and day difference, right? If we zoom in here, you could just see that it's super sharp and there's no noise. It just looks amazing. And I did it again. So I did it again here. You can see pure blackness, but that's without the flash. And then with the flash, I mean, look, it's just amazing. You know, I focused right here. Look at that. I mean, it's just. Hopefully I'm getting you to see the difference here. So in this shot here, again, now we're closer to that kitchen light source, and look how this is like almost how my eyes see it, but you can see it's a crummy shot. That's with no flash, and then with flash. So it's a little underexposed here, but you could just see the difference. I mean, you can actually boost that in post if you want, or I could have just turned the flash up a little brighter and get that. The ceiling height actually changed over here. That's why you're seeing a little bit dimmer. But you could see the difference in all of that. It's quite amazing. So you can see the difference in just adding this little cheap little flash that's very lightweight. You know, I didn't show this, but you can, let's take that off. You can bounce it off of a wall that way. So if you don't have a high ceiling or you want to create side shadow lighting, you can bounce it off the wall that way. You can also bounce it off a wall that way. A lot of photographers like to go like this to bounce it from the back so the light's coming straight, because you never want to point your flash straight at a subject. I know this one professional photographer makes a living doing that I forget his name. He's in a lot of magazines, but that's what he does. You know, I don't like the look because it makes shiny hot spots on people's face, and then you get the shadows under. It just looks, for me, I just don't like the look of it. But you know, you always usually want to bounce light somewhere if your camera, you know, if your flash is on your camera. We're going to go into off-camera flash in a minute. So I wanted to show you this photo here. Let me just bring up the information. Now this is with the kit lens, and this is at 1600 ISO, which is kind of getting up there, but it's still great. I mean, look at the quality on these Sony cameras. Even at 1600, the ISO is really good. As you can see here, you can see there's a little bit of noise, but I mean, nothing to write home about. The image still looks amazing. And why I showed you this is because, let me go back to me. I showed you that because if you're struggling with a small flash or even a bigger flash, and you got really tall ceilings, and you've got this on full power, you can still increase your ISO. Don't be scared that like, oh my gosh, I can only stick to 100 or 200. No, you can still go up to 1600 ISO. You could probably even go up to 6400 ISO as long as you're getting a proper exposure and you're not boosting it in post. You're still going to get really good results because you've got a flash here saturating your sensor with nice pure light, okay? So very important. The other thing you got to make sure is that when you're bouncing it off a wall or a ceiling, in case you don't know, make sure that it is white, because if it has a color, if my ceilings in all these situations were brown, I would need, for one, a brighter light, because brown absorbs light, it doesn't reflect it like white, and everything would have like a brown cast, or if the walls were purple or whatever, you're going to have that purple cast. So make sure that you're bouncing off of something white. Now, the other thing I do is this little thing does come with one of these, and all that is it has a 1/4-20, I think that is, on the bottom. You can put it on a tripod or light stand, but you can put, let me show you. You could put this thing on. Now you could use this, you could do a lot of little special effects. Sometimes when I go to my mom's house at Christmas time, I don't even take like a light stand with me. I'll put this thing on like this. So now I can, you know, I didn't put it up tight enough. Let me just do it right there. So now you could set it on something like this, and I'll set that off. Whoops, I'll set it on a table over there so that when I do like our family portrait, I can, you know, point it onto a wall or whatever and have my camera on the tripod and get a little closer to us. That way I can just control the light, because now it's, you know, off camera. But how do I trigger that? Well, one thing you could use is the XT2 by Godox. This is the newer one. The older one I couldn't stand, but the newer one's easy to use because you got buttons up here. Again, we're not going to go into that, but I can put this on my camera, and now I can get off-camera flash. I can trigger, you know, all my flashes here, including the TT350 that we're talking about here. That way I could put that on a light stand and get off-camera flash, which is more desirable than bouncing sometimes, because it's off camera, it's not on, and you're like stuck here like, oh, how can I do this? Put it off camera. And this one will allow you to have TTL and HSS, high-speed shutter sync. However, since when I travel, I typically don't use a whole lot of flash, only in certain situations. And I use these. I did a review. These are little, they look like little dice, and they're actually just dumb triggers. And what you do with these is, let me get this one right. This one goes on your camera. Now look how nice and small. We're talking about nice, you know, Sony a7C small stuff. And then the other one goes over here. The other one goes onto your flash like this. Now, and it has a 1/4-20, so you could screw that into anything too, or have someone hold it. So now I've got off-camera flash. It's just a dumb trigger. It doesn't do any TTL. It doesn't do HSS, so I'll be stuck with 1/160th of a second on here. But like I said, how I use it for travels and stuff, this works perfect. So I never really do this, but I could if me and my wife were out in New York and we're on the street and there's just a beautiful, you know, night skyline shot or whatever, and you'd like to do night photography. I can hold this out. I can't stretch all the way, but I can hold this out here, use this, and now I can do photography with off-camera flash. And at low light situations, you probably don't even need more than 160th of a second anyways, but that is something really cool. I forget the name of these things. I'll put the link in the description, but I did a whole review on those little things, and I mean, that all fits. These 3 items right here just fit right in my bag very, very easy. I almost forgot. I was about ready to wrap all this up, and you're probably seeing this earlier in the video, but I was done with the video and I thought I'd film this real quick. One little tip you might want to do with these little flashes is put your batteries in the wrong way, not the right way. That way they don't automatically get turned on in your bag, because you can have these automatically turn off and all that, but I hate doing that because when I'm working, they turn off and all that. That way they don't automatically turn on, and then when you get to where you're getting, you want to use it, just flip them around the right way. And I do that with the bigger Godox too. You take it out, turn it around, in the wrong way, and now it won't automatically turn on. Because I had one of those turn on before, and then I was just paranoid that the battery isn't as full as I thought it was. So a little tip for you there. I think that's about it, guys. If you have any questions about this, let me know in the comments. And if you want to see anything else about the Sony a7C, leave that in the comments, and maybe I can make a video about it. Talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.